Good morning, everyone. On this lovely grayish day, the sun seems to be poking out through the clouds occasionally, so there's hope, I suppose. And today, I am here because I want to make sure you are well aware that tomorrow is a very special day in the church calendar. The red might give it away. It's like the only red shirt I own, so I always wear it. I always wear it on Pentecost. Pentecost is tomorrow. And tomorrow, if you don't know, Pentecost is the day 50 days after Easter. That's where the name comes from. Penta, I think, means 50, or in the Greek, or it comes from that in any sense. 50 days after Easter. And it is the day when we remember not only the birthday of the church, it is the church's birthday, when the church first came alive, so to speak, back all those thousands of years ago, but also the day when we celebrate the Holy Spirit and how the Holy Spirit works both in the church and in our own lives. And there are lots of different ways that churches celebrate. Over in the States, it's the tradition for a lot of churches, especially very kind of, old traditional ones, to wear red. I remember the first time I served in a church. It was in a little tiny rural community. And I walked in on Pentecost Sunday and everyone was wearing red. And I had not gotten the memo. That was not a thing in the church that I grew up in. But ever since then, I've tried to wear red on Pentecost because, it's just fun. Why not? Why not wear red? Some churches decorate their spaces and put banners up and doves and red streamers and all sorts. And it can be a really fun day anyway to just celebrate the season and celebrate the Holy Spirit. And so my question for you today is, what do you think of? What images do you get in your mind when you think of the Holy Spirit? It can be a sort of abstract thought, I think, for a lot of us if we haven't really thought about it. The images that come to mind. Perhaps you think of fire like the color red, like the tongues of fire that came on the disciples during that first Pentecost morning. Perhaps you think of the wind, the rushing wind that filled the house where the disciples were. All this in the story we'll hear tomorrow. Perhaps you think of the dove that descended upon Jesus at his baptism, the dove, the Spirit, who descended in the form of a dove. Perhaps you think of silence, God coming to us in the silence all around us. There's so many ways to think about to describe the Holy Spirit, and all of those, of course, work along with plenty others. I was trying to think myself about how I would describe the Holy Spirit while I was walking the dog this morning, and he's a very, slow. He's an older dog now, and he takes his time, so there's a lot of time to reflect. I do a lot of thinking while walking the dogs. And interestingly, as I was walking him, I had connections come to mind. So he tends to lead the way. This is my Loki, my white dog. And he just likes to putter around and sort of sniff what he wants to sniff and do his own thing. And, I usually just let him go. We just go around the town, and then we'll eventually make a big circle back. And he moves on ahead while I just sort of, guide along, making sure he doesn't get into trouble, mostly. And sometimes he does try to go places that he shouldn't go, places that I know will be dangerous or too muddy or just not pleasant. And that's when I have to kind of slowly nudge him back the other way, sometimes very reluctantly on his part, but, he'll eventually come along with me. This morning, we were walking, and another dog and their owner came jogging towards us on the path, and my dog is a little reactive, especially with dogs coming at him quickly, and so I could see him gearing up to want to attack, because that's what he does when he sees another dog that he feels threatened by. And so, I know him well. And so before this dog was able to come to us, I just, I crouched down and I put my arms around him, because he's an older dog, he's not that strong anymore. And I just grabbed him and made sure that he didn't do something that we were all going to regret. Later, I held him back from what he wanted to do in that moment. And then also, we continued walking. While we were walking, we were along a main road and a big truck came by, and he doesn't like loud noises. And so whenever there's a loud rumble, I know what to look for. I know what upsets him, and I always make sure I'm there, because when he sees that, when he hears that loud rumble go past, he wants me there. He wants to know that he's not alone, that he's protected, and that he's cared for. And so I always make sure to draw him a little closer when those loud things are coming by, so that he's right there next to me and he's going to be okay. And then as well, with him, doing his own thing, there are numerous times, and this was, I think, when I finally made the connection, that he was just sniffing grass or something for just ages, and I was just hanging out, thinking. The leash was slack, and he just kind of was sniffing around, and I think a lot of times he forgets that I even exist in those moments. And so, it's one of those, I just let him sniff and do his own thing, and then he'll look up and kind of go, oh yeah, and he'll look at me and he'll say, oh yeah, you're still there. I'm like, all right, I am still there, let's keep going, come on. And so it was the image, I think, that I got of all these different ways that I connect with him, this relationship I have as this, guide and person who comes alongside and protects and comforts and takes care of him. All those images that we thought of earlier, those active sort of fire and wind and, rushing sort of images are certainly appropriate and very, very true of the Holy Spirit. But there are also the more peaceful images of the dove, of the silence. And then the one that I was thinking of today is one that Jesus uses. He says, when he's telling the disciples about the Holy Spirit who's coming, he says, I'll send an advocate, a helper, to be with you. Someone who will make sure you're never alone, that you're always guided. And that, I think, is what I think of when I think of the Holy Spirit. Perhaps first off, someone who guides us to right paths, who keeps us away from dangerous or silly or stupid actions. Someone who is there to comfort us and console us in the difficult or the scary times. And someone who is always there with us, even when we get distracted or when we forget completely that we have the Holy Spirit there next to us. It's that sort of idea that anything you can say about God, you can say about the Holy Spirit, because the Holy Spirit is God. The Holy Spirit is God with us. Closer to us than our very breath is one of the ways used to describe God, and I think that's how the Holy Spirit comes into our life, is God with us, guiding us and leading us, consoling us, just being our helper and our advocate and our guide. And so today, I would invite you, as we prepare for this wonderful day of Pentecost tomorrow, to think about the images of the Holy Spirit that come to mind. Perhaps think if you've ever had any of those moments where you've felt a connection or felt a spark or just felt a sense of peace or just felt a sense of comfort, someone there with you, God there with you. Think about those times in your life that you've maybe felt this presence of the Holy Spirit. And then tomorrow, as you find a service to attend, if there's one in person, some of the churches have started, I think, going on their own and doing in-person services, or if you're watching the YouTube service from Lanchester, or if you're doing any of your other things, wear some red and represent as we celebrate the Holy Spirit tomorrow at Pentecost and the birthday of the church. So excuse to eat cake, we could go into that next year maybe. But anyway, take care, have a good day, and I will see you all later.